Good evening and welcome to the Portsmouth School Board meeting for December 9th, 2008. If I could ask the superintendent to take the roll call, please.
Regarding attendance, please, Rebecca Emerson.
Here.
Kent LePage.
Here.
Leslie Stevens.
Here.
Lisa Sweet.
Here.
Sherry Ham Garrity.
Here.
Mitch Children.
Here. All here.
We have Linda Brolette.
Here.
And I think so.
Okay.
That's it.
Thank you. If I could just ask everyone to rise, take a moment to think, to take a moment of silent reflection, and then join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. If I could have a motion to accept the work session minutes of November 17, 2008.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion, corrections, edits? I see none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Another motion, please, for November 18th regular school board minutes.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion on that? Okay, I see none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. Dr. Lister, if we could go through some of the communications we have for this session.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Very quickly, in your packet, you have a letter from Kelly Barnaby regarding the vacant school board seat. You have already received the letter from her, and this issue is being addressed, as you know, and someone will be nominated at the January 6, 2009 school board meeting. The second item is a letter to Mr. Jeff Collins, principal of the high school, from the New England Association of Schools and Colleges, NEAS&C. And this is mainly informational. It's very important, in our opinion, to belong to the NEAS&C. Has a lot to do with school accreditation, assist our students when they're applying for colleges, and they're following the recommendations at the high school. And I just point that out, that it is a lot of work, but we think it's important and it benefits our students. The third item is Donderific newsletter, and I have here that I have discussed with all the principals about communicating, because I know all the principals communicate in a different way with newsletters and emails, and we're trying to really put that together so we have some consistency with that and provide as much information as we can to the public and the parents, especially about school activities. And the last item is the school board photo that Mr. Stokel will be present to take at the next meeting on January 6th. In 2009, and we're hoping that everyone can make that meeting so we can take that. Mr. Stokel has a long tradition of taking the yearbook picture, and we're happy to have him do that, and we appreciate that.
Thank you. Any questions about any of the communications? None? Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Point of order, can we move up our public commentary session next before recognition of staffing students?
Any issues with that? I see none. Okay, sounds good, because we have 5 people who like to talk, so we don't want to actually keep people here all night. So we'll do that. So we'll move into the public commentary session, then we'll come back to the recognition of staff and students. So if I could have, and I'm sorry I can't read your handwriting, Kevin Eckhart? Is that correct?
Kevin Eckhart.
Thank you.
First of all, let me say that I love the Parrott Avenue location. And before the details of the project came out, I had no problem with it whatsoever. But after those details have been exposed, I think it's fairly obvious, certainly to me, and hopefully to you as well, that it is not the right location for the new middle school. As I've said before, too much money, too many compromises, not enough value. From the time the project started, it's been all about taking the Pierce land, taking the library parking along with every other parking spot within a 3-block area, and taking the fields across the street for primary middle school use. Why not give a little bit? Give the students a quality school, give the faculty a reasonable place to park, and give the players and coaches regulation fields that they can practice and play on. Or, if you want to continue to take, first, take a deep breath. Secondly, take the time to look at other locations. You owe it to the students, the faculty, and the taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Alan Nelson.
Good evening, Alan Nelson, 225 Marcy Street. I'd like to say right off the bat, at $40 million projected for the school at Parrott Avenue, I believe it's too expensive. Financially, it's expensive. It's financially because, as Mr. Eckhart just mentioned, and I have to agree, the value for a dollar just may not be there, and I believe it isn't. It's expensive in terms of our student experience, both in terms of the students once they occupy whatever school we build there, and also in the interim process. I'm not quite clear on all those details, but I feel like that would be something that would be too expensive as well. And it also is expensive for what our city stands for, and indeed cites in our master plan, witness the Pierce land and green space, open space in our city. Obviously, there's a responsibility to our students and also to the taxpayers here, and it's even more important than it ever has been to get value, true value for our dollar, so that we can get the best school wherever that may be for our city. It's more important in these uncertain times, and the speculation about costs coming down, or a little comfort, because it is speculation. It's a little comfort when you are dealing with a hugely complex and expensive option such as Parrott Avenue. I believe the Sagamore Hill option deserves consideration. It's viable, and it does seem to provide value for the dollar, and it protects the not only the values of the city, but our fiscal well-being as well. And just as important to me, the surrounding interests of people that live in that area and the abutters to that area as well. It's never too late to do the right thing. If you have the courage of your convictions, in the light of day, it'll be apparent what the right choice will be. I do believe that there should be due consideration given to the Sagamore concept, and in doing so, I don't really believe, in view of everything, that there'll be a huge compromise in terms of scheduling for the school, the actual construction, and the credibility of you as a school board. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Carl.
Thank you. My name is Carl Deemer, 337 Aldridge Road. Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. First, I wanted to thank you for all the difficult work that you've done over the past year and a half. I know it's been a challenging task for you, and certainly not easy. Every turn that you made was another challenge for you to try to figure out what's best to do for Parrott Avenue. However, I would request that the board votes not to vote for the $41 million project at this time, especially when the economy is not at its best. People are losing their jobs, and household budgets are really being strained right now. Going back to the study circles, their task was to go ahead and find recommendations, not mandates. And their suggestions were to be looked at as far as what would be the best possible options. Currently, we're not looking at two options. We're only looking at one option, and an expensive one at that. I know that a lot of people have discussed this at great lengths. The first proposal at Parrott Avenue, if you go ahead back to 2007, from the proposal we had then, if you took off the fields and the temporary classrooms that were originally proposed by Team Design, it would come out lower cost than this proposal right here for $41 million. So there's some confusion, as far as what we see on the outside, why we can't get a lower cost school, even if we were to consider Parrott Avenue. I just think that not all the alternatives have been considered. With a $41 million project, out there and not looking at alternatives, I don't think is a prudent thing to do right now, especially when we have something available that will deliver more programming for $33 to $35 million, depending upon how high performance you want to go. I think this is a time that we need to take a breath and look at where we're at. It seems to me that this project has become more political than practical, and I think we need to keep the practicality in mind as we go forward. We do want the best for our students. We do want the best for our citizens. I just don't think we're there at this point yet. I know it's not easy, but I think I respectfully request another alternative be just considered and looked at so we can balance it and compare which is the best option for the city of Portsmouth and the school. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Jerry Stowe.
Jerry Stowe, 579 Sagamore Avenue. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I too would like to thank you for all the hard work you've put in for the past year and a half, and I think Mr. Rimmer said it very well, and there's nothing that I could add to that as far as the efforts that you've put into this. I would disagree with him over a couple points when it comes to cost. First of all, we do not know what the cost would be at an alternative site. We haven't done any formalized studies to produce any real numbers that we can take to the bank and compare X to Y. So that being said, there are some other things that should be considered. In the costs that were put forward, there was, I think, $2.5 million to settle the eminent domain process. Either way, it's going to cost some money to settle that regardless of what we do, because we do have an infringement. One thing that has been mentioned by one of our council members that I haven't heard a lot of discussion about is the fact that if we were to abandon Parrott Avenue, we are still, as taxpayers, going to pay to renovate that building one way or another. And some people have said, well, let's just sell it, let's just keep it. Well, we don't have a very good record in Portsmouth about keeping entry buildings if we look at the Lafayette School as an example. So I'd just like to urge you to consider those things. We also have a responsibility to the master plan, maintaining green space. We have 66 pristine acres down there that I think we deserve to preserve and show that as an example to our children. And I would again thank you for all your work, and we will continue to support you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And the last on the list is Frank Cook.
And good evening. Frank Cook, 465 Hartford Drive. I'm a big fan of the school board. I've watched you on TV for years, and I've even sat through a few of your meetings here. Less a fan here than at home, but every time I hear you guys talk about the Parrott Avenue site, I get the feeling you're trying to fit a size 10 foot into a size 9 shoe. And I'm telling you, you can do it. You can even wear it for a little while. But pretty soon you're going to realize you've made a mistake. And in this case, it's going to be a real costly mistake. You're going to have to come back to the taxpayers at some point and ask us to expand or finesse or do something else. And these are taxpayer dollars that are squandered at a time when we can't really afford to do that. Please put this thing somewhere else. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else who'd like to speak that didn't sign up? Okay, thank you. So we'll close the public commentary session and go back to our regular scheduled programming. Recognition of staff and students, Dr. Lister and Mr. Zadrak.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we have two items we'd like to speak about. The first, we'd like to recognize Board Member Sherry Ham Garrity for being appointed as Vice Chair. This is her first meeting on television, I believe. And we'd like to welcome her as Vice Chair. I look forward to working with her in that position. The second item is in your agenda, and it is the Excellence in Education grants. And this is more informational than anything else. And if we can have a little bragging right with the teachers, we'd like to do that as well. You'll remember in the past that we had money put aside in the Excellence in Education that has been put aside through the foundation that we've used in 2001, 2005, and now 2008 for teachers to write competitive grants for issues that affect the classroom and go along with our district initiatives. So you have a sheet in the back of your packet marked Exhibit 7-1, and that is a list of all the grants that have been given to Mr. Zadravek and I after meeting with a lot of teachers in SAU 50 and SAU 51. This is money that's put aside for teachers in each one of the SAUs. And I just want to point out and brag, if I may, about the number of competitive grants and the kinds of things that people are writing grants for to supplement what we're doing in the classroom. This is money that's put aside that was raised many years ago for G-Pepsi, is the old G-Pepsi money. And this money that we have to spend, which is about $35,000, is interest on the money that we've saved for a few years. And again, we've used that in years past to be able to do this. You also notice that we have $35,000 available, and if you look at the total number of grants that we have, that equals $73,616. So Mr. Zadravik will talk about how we're going to determine who gets those grants, and that group certainly has a work ahead of them, because luckily he and I are not the ones deciding for these grants. But I have to tell you that after we first brought this up with the teachers to supplement what we're doing in the classroom, we had a grant writing workshop, which was very well attended. We've had this number of proposals, 23 proposals. You can see the amounts that they're asking for. None of these are stipends, and none of these are for salaries. These are all for classroom materials. All this money will go directly to students in the classroom with the literacy and the technology and the other areas that we've been talking about. So I'd just like to say that we're pretty proud of the fact that these teachers are now looking at some additional funding to supplement the classroom activities that they're involved in. And we've also given them other grant possibilities. So we have a lot of people writing grants for different things, and we're really happy with that. So the timeline for this is that we have a group of people that are looking at these grant applications. We will make a decision. They will make a decision by December 19th. The grants will be awarded in whatever way this group feels they should be awarded with that amount of money. And we will allow them to spend their money and work on their projects from January 1st to about the end of May. And we'll do some evaluations, and really we're looking at several items, which include how this impacts students in the classroom, what the growth is, and really look at the accomplishment of this. So we appreciate the fact that we're able to use this money. And we do have proposals from SAU 50 and SAU 52. Dr. Cushing and I are working on this as far as getting the word out to everyone. And again, Mr. Zadravek and I are involved in working with the group that's reading these. And if I can turn it over to him, he'll give you more information about that.
Well, thanks, and I also want to echo what Dr. Lister said about the amazing proposals that we had turned in for this opportunity, and also to recognize what Dr. Lister has been doing around this work for some time, and many of you know that he has a lot of practice around grant writing and instructs people on how to write grants. And so when this opportunity came out, one of the things that we did, that he did, was to put together a real request for proposals, an RFP, as you would see on pretty much any grant opportunity that's out there. And the idea being that if we do that, and if we have a training session for people, which he instructed, to show them some of the tips and ways to write grants, it actually increases our capacity as a system to gain some of that funding on other grant resources. And we certainly hope that of the amount of money that does not end up getting funded through these grants, that the teachers will have a proposal in hand to go out and be able to search out some other opportunities and take advantage of them as they may occur. So the real difficult task, as he referred to, the deciding on which grants can get funded with the money that we have, one of the things that I'd just like to bring to your attention, if you recall the the new teachers contract, which has a provision in it that created what we're calling an interdisciplinary council, which is made up of teachers who have at least 25 years of experience here in Portsmouth, would meet 4 times a year in lieu of an additional piece of longevity. And that we had met earlier in the year with that group of teachers and had talked about and brainstormed some ideas with them of what we could tap into that wealth of resource for. One of the things that came up as we went through this grant process was the realization that this is exactly the kind of group of people we'd like to have involved in looking at these proposals as a way of furthering the great work that teachers are doing in our system. So we put out the opportunity for that group of teachers or members of that group to form a committee to review the grant proposals. They are meeting this Thursday, actually, to talk about the proposals and to begin the deliberations and discussions about how to prioritize proposals. And Dr. Lister did speak to some of the criteria around the grants, and there are in the proposal that was given out specific sections that we were looking for people to be able to address, as he mentioned, related to student learning, related to the ability to build community partnerships and things like that, that the committee has been tasked to basically rate the proposals against those criteria and come into this meeting Thursday with the ability to start prioritizing and have some way of deciding which ones will end up getting funded. So it's a process that's built upon the criteria and built upon some way of assuring that it'll be a fair process, and we're excited to have not only the proposals but have that group of people looking at them and making some of those decisions.
Great. Any questions? I'm sorry.
The grants were given out, you said, in 2001 and 2005, and now, so does it just get to a certain point where you feel like there's enough there to award grants? I mean, how do you decide?
Yeah, there's actually never enough money.
Right.
Because we've had, I think the first year was $22,000, the next year was about $28,000. This is just the interest off this money
Right.
that's in the foundation. So we've tried to save it every 2 or 3 years and use it. And at this point, because it is the interest, it's no cost to the taxpayer or anything, but it certainly supplements what we want to do in the classroom. And but it's $35,000, and we're going to spread that as thin as we can and make as much impact as we can.
And then, this is an amazing list of proposals. Has this always been the response to this, or it seems exceptional?
This is an exceptional response. Usually we've had 15, 18 responses or grant applications. With 23, we're very pleased with that. And you see that's $78,000. So that means it's, like I said, it's a competitive grant operation. So some people may not get any money. Some people, it's going to be just as if they were writing a grant to a foundation. But they know that going into it. But there are some great ideas from these teachers.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, well, I would like to just commend the administration, because I remember during contract negotiations and discussions about even the forming the interdisciplinary team, the question really was, well, how might we creatively use this group of people? Because they're all of the teachers in the district who have worked 25 years or more, that's correct, yeah. So it's a great idea, because this is a tremendous wealth of experience looking at what other teachers are suggesting they want to try. It seems like it would be a very nice competitive process. I do have one question, though. If you could explain, in the notes the superintendent gave out to us, what has this got to do with the PLPs? How's that going to be? How's that?
It's actually 2 separate things. They're not connected, but
Oh, they're not.
to them also. Right.
Okay.
They're not connected in this case, but
Okay, I was
that's a
confused.
separate item.
Okay, got it. Okay, so now that item.
Okay. So the other thing under the recognition of staff and students that I was going to bring to your attention, also related to the new teacher's contract, was the creation of these professional learning projects. This is the idea that teachers could get graduate level equivalent credit for us for doing things other than just taking a class at a university. So these are basically independent projects with the same kind of rigor as you would see in an independent study at the graduate level. So they're related to action research kinds of projects. And we went through a process this fall of putting together, again, kind of a guideline for teachers to apply to these, which we are going to offer up opportunities twice each year. So we had one that was due in November. So we had, given the turnaround that we had and that it was fairly new, we only had 2 proposals that came in. We again had a committee of teachers, and in this case teachers and administrators, who met, about 6 of us. Linda Burlett may also be able to speak to this. She was on that committee, who looked at the proposals and looked at the idea around professional learning projects, and really got into some great discussion about, with this coming as a new thing, how do we ensure that these are of the high rigor and standard that we want? And in this case, it was a nice back and forth process where we had some good discussion as a committee. We went back to the applicants and asked some questions and asked them to clarify some things, and in some cases beef some things up. Came back to the committee for a little more conversation, and we feel like we've gotten to a point where we're going to move forward on one of those 2 projects this year. And probably at a later meeting I'd share a little more detail about that project, as we're just starting it off right now. But I will say it's a group of teachers at one of our elementary schools, New Franklin, that's formed a group of them that will be doing work together. They're a group of teachers of different grade levels that are working around reading, and particularly helping our most struggling readers in the area of reading comprehension. But it's more than just a study group looking at that. It's, again, the notion of action research, of establishing some data around where those students are and really looking at what's most effective and is going to have the greatest impact on moving students up. Another aspect of this project that I was only in conversation with the group learned of last week was they're actually going to do some of this also via some online collaboration, which is going to kind of be an interesting extension of this, because we haven't had a lot of formalized online collaboration around with teachers. I know Dr. Schulman has brought this up a couple of times, but this group is going to be utilizing some online collaborative tools to actually do some reflective dialogue online, to actually work at creating some assessments and look at data online and have some of that conversation go online. So that's going to be an exciting piece to see how also that as a tool for us moves forward. But of course the professional learning project is what's closely tied to the student learning in the classroom and measuring some gains around student learning. So we're excited to see it go forward, and certainly we'll come back and update you. And as you may recall, one of the requirements of these is that they do some public exhibition of their work. And so sometime either this spring or even next fall, there'll be some kind of public presentation that we'd like to actually advertise for people to be able to come see what this professional learning project has done for our teachers and our students.
Great. Any questions or comments on that? No? Okay. Thank you very much, Stephen. Mr. Bartlett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first item I have included in the packet, as I alluded to at our last meeting. I would be bringing forth tonight some documentation indicating how Portsmouth School Department is bringing the TSA or 403B activity up to current IRS regulations. We really are doing nothing different in this area than what the school department has done for years, except that over the last couple of years, the IRS had made a couple of different changes in terms of limits and assurances. And what they wanted to do was make sure that the vendors or the providers of these tax-sheltered annuities that our employees were putting their money in were going to be safe and viable, because this is their retirement money. So we take this very seriously. And over the years, we've made some adjustments in the types of agreements we've made to try to make sure that various things were done. The IRS finally came out with a new set of regulations, and they said what you need to do is take the plan that you've been doing, if it's not a written plan document, and take that information and put it in a written plan document, and that written plan document would outline the responsibilities of the TSA vendors and the employer, which is exactly what we've done. With the help of Diana Fogarty, the Director of Human Resources for the city, and some resources I was able to obtain from a couple of conference sessions that I went to for ASBO International and some samples, we've put together a plan adoption document. We have a new working agreements with the TSA vendors. We have a new information sharing agreement with the TSA vendors, which is a requirement of the new IRS regulations. And so the first requirement is that the school board formally adopt a plan and vote to say that they agree to be plan sponsors, which is merely formalizing what you've been doing for years, actually. And so the attached document is the basis for our written plan. And what we will do is, if you go back to what I believe is page 4, you'll see there are 2 appendices which right now are blank. And what we have done is we've sent out the new vendor agreements and the new information sharing agreements to all the TSA vendors on our list, and that's on the last 2 pages. And after you adopt the plan, as that documentation comes in, the vendors that agree to the new contractual documents that we put together will be added to the appendix, the appropriate appendix, and that's the part that can change. We may find, as some other school districts that are a little further along in the process than we are, there will be some off our list that may decide not to continue to be in the tax-sheltered annuity business with school districts, in which case we will see if we can do the best we can with what we have left for a list and perhaps expand that depending on how things go. But right now there are a number of vendors on the list. Most of the ones that are left are sizable and major vendors of tax-sheltered annuities, and I fully expect that we're going to end up with an adequate number returning their documentation on time to be added to the appendix, so we will be able to be in compliance with the IRS regulations.
Thank you. Any questions? Is this something you need approval on tonight?
Yes, because it has to be, we have to have this implemented for January 1st, 2009, and you don't have another formal meeting scheduled for
Move
that.
to approve the 403B plan document for IRA.
Second.
Any discussions? Okay. Roll call?
Yes.
Okay.
Kent LePage?
Yes.
Leslie Stevens?
Yes.
Lisa Sweet?
Yes.
Rebecca Emerson?
Yes.
Sherry Ham Garrity?
Yes.
Mitch Childman?
Yes.
Unanimous?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. And
The second item I have on the agenda is the financial report, which I had mailed in a separate cover, and I see from the look that you didn't bring it with you. All right, so I will give you mine. As I explained last time, this is a new concept, this is a new look, and it does take some getting used to, I think. The column, the third column over, the variance year-to-date, and we have the overs and unders. Those are well within what I think are reasonable tolerances for setting up a plan to follow, because purchasing patterns are not exactly the same every year. Teachers' supply orders change, our needs change. You have a couple of years where you freeze the budget, sometimes they go differently. So these represent an average. And as last month, when we did have one that was, the first one, as you recall, Madam Vice Chair, that you had a question on, I had planned to be able to explain that to you anyways, because that was not within the 1 or 2% tolerance, which I would be comfortable with at this stage of the game. The telling point will be when 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, when the second column starts more closely approaching the fifth column, which is the FY 2009 annual budget totals. And again, in November, it's still too soon. It's still really too soon to even approach most of those. I guess the point I'm trying to make is this does give you a good picture as long as we understand that the variance levels are going to be a little bit. Ideally, as I was having discussion with board member this evening, it would be nice if I was enough of a wizard to make those all come out zero every month. But I aspire to that, but I highly doubt that I'll ever quite make that level of expertise or that level of predictability. So I think it's well within the range now. I do not see anything out of the ordinary other than the fact that, we are having maintenance issues that we need to take care of. They come up. So maintenance is ahead of what I would like it to be at this time of year. It has traditionally been ahead ever since I've been here, even though we've tried to bolster it up. So, but we do, I meet with Kenny Lynchy every day. Sometimes I start my day with Kenny Lynchy to say, what's on our list today? And so we try to figure that out. The bottom section, the cost center 207, because that is primarily student requirement driven, and we would not necessarily have the same student requirements in special education every year of the same number. That again is one that I still feel is within reasonable tolerances at the moment, but that would probably not be as easy to make even as tight as the general fund section. So at this stage of the game, we're keeping an eye on stuff. We're trying to hone in on. We're just starting the energy season to see how that's going to play out. And again, we don't control the weather, so we don't know how many degree days we're going to have to deal with between now and April. But we'll just try to use a historical comparison and try to stay ahead of it.
Thank you. Any questions? Sherry?
Absolutely, these numbers look like they're fine-tuning exactly as you said they would, and there aren't the big jumps and bubbles that we saw before. But you talked about maintenance, but could you just talk about the data processing? I didn't know if it's something we had on the previous month's reports, or if...
That, I think, is a timing issue, because in previous years, as you remember, your replacement schedule you've been trying to adjust that and keep ahead. In the last couple of years, we've had the replacement schedule has been accomplished by coming up with multi-year lease agreements. And so the more that process takes place, the more front-loaded that will be. And historically, that wasn't the case for quite a while.
But it should still come out okay.
So far. If it looks like it's going south, I will bring it up at the first opportunity.
Stephen, I have one quick question.
Certainly.
Could you just describe again briefly, I know you've done this before, how you're coming up with developing what is in the column of the
plan?
Year-to-date plan?
Okay, the year-to-date plan, we can come up with, in the salary areas, we can go through and try to come fairly close based on contractual obligations and the number of payrolls and how they're spread throughout the year. Occasionally, you get one at the end of a month that was at the beginning of a month in a prior year, so that's why we'd have some adjustments to go there. The operating costs are primarily a 5-year rolling history based on past history. And again, we have a couple of years of freezes. That certainly would change some of the patterns and some of the things. Again, unfortunately, we're unable to control the weather and the number of degree days or the number of snow events, so that will affect those areas as well. So they might not historically mirror each other, but they should give us trends. So what I'm trying to do is use the trends and adjust them as we go. And this is the first year we've actually used this methodology, so I suspect that as next year we'll be even better at it.
That's helpful. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving on to the agenda. First on the agenda is the middle school. So what I'd like to say just to open this is as you can see, we are short a number of members of the school board this evening. One member recently resigned, another member is on vacation, and a third member has work obligations that could not be moved. So even though we are a committee of 6, and I know the members not present would have liked the opportunity to go on record with their vote, it was really simply not possible to find a date that would guarantee any greater number of members be present at this time of year. So we will proceed this evening with just 6 members voting. We are working under a tight schedule. It is, in my belief, the best interest of our students, educators, and the taxpayers that the school board vote on this project tonight, so we can file our intention with the State Department of Education to renovate Portsmouth Middle School. This is something we must do by December 31st in order to put Portsmouth in line for school building aid. So having said that, I would like to entertain a motion regarding the middle school. Rebecca.
I would like to make a motion that this board forward to the City Council our decision to renovate and expand the Portsmouth Middle School on the site of Parrott Avenue, that being the current school property along with the adjacent deed restricted land to the left of the building, and with a size of no more than 129,765 square feet, and at a cost of no greater than $40,855,000. In addition, I would add that if the cost of lifting the deed restriction is less than the $2 million that is included as a line item in the budget, that the actual bond reflect that decrease.
Second.
Okay. Discussions. Kent.
I'm going to deeply oppose this, and I've talked to many people throughout the community, and sitting as the board member with the longest history of this, I'm going to go through a litany of things and ask for some time. Our obligations as school board members first is first the child's safety, second the children's needs in the city of Portsmouth, and third the tax burden that we put upon those that make all the above happen. There are a number of reasons that I oppose this. I go back, like I say, with the history of this, and I know that John Stokel has worked extremely hard working on any concept, with the original concept, one that he had a great desire with too, and now he also embraces this one because he wants the best for the students. And I do want to say that I am deeply concerned that we do not have 3 members of the school board here. That means 1/3 of this board will not be weighing in on this, and if this was a true bonding issue, we would only be possibly, as the vote goes, 6 to, if it went just with 1 opposition tonight, you would be 1 vote short of making that bonding issue happen. So it would be an extremely close vote if that were to happen, and I take issue that that is an area we should consider as we move forward on any major decision. The reasons that I contest this is, first of all, the overrun of this is somewhere between $8.5 and $10.5 million. Why do I say that? I have done my research, and these other schools that we have had individuals on this board and outside this board say that those costs are not true to today's value, are wrong. I have had contact with engineering firms and that of other design firms saying that it is an expensive building. We have not met the original board's decision when moving this to discussion back to Parrott Ave of the parking issue. We are a total on-site 93 sites empty, or less than what is required. How do I come to that number? I was quite surprised last week during the work session, or 2 weeks ago with the work session with the City Council, that when I asked what the number of parking places needed for the library was not directly answered. In my research, I went back and the planning board required 63 spots be open to the library. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about that. There were to be 63 spots. They currently have 15 spots on site. The 15 spots that they have on site, we subtract them down to needing a total of 48. Our discussion has said we are somewhere around 45 spaces needed for our visitors and needs of people coming in and out of the building on a daily basis. So I go on record that we are approximately 63 spots, we are approximately 93 spots short to meet the community's needs and the school needs in that area. I will go into some backup material further on. Fields, we are actually going to lose a field and not gain a single field in this whole process. We will be at a negative. We will lose one field even if things move forward and you go to the stump dump. And then you go ahead and we have play fields and so forth. We will be losing a major portion of the alumni field or the Pierce Trust property. That is wrong. We should not be going negative. We should be going positive on the fields for our youth and our adult leagues that are happening out there. Lastly, I've stood quite strong that the Pierce Land Trust is an eminent domain issue. And I think that I find it ironic in the Portsmouth Herald editorial this past weekend that they singled it out as the exemption of what would be discussed. That is the City of Portsmouth's property, and we are taking it from those who wish to use that property. That is classic eminent domain. My backup on this comes from a discussion that we had last week with the rec board. The rec board is a very concerned group of individuals that are appointed by the city. And first issue is the stump dump is well under cost. It will cost an excessive amount of money to utilize that area. $750,000 that we have earmarked on out there, to the truth of even JCJ and DeStefano, it's just a guesstimate. We feel that it's going to be extremely higher than that because many things have been left out on that cost. In fact, Rec Board last week had some designing done, and I will pass this along. And these are to scale. That the field that has been discussed, again, with no proper surveying, barely fits. And I have to remember how Russ actually got this in here. There are a couple of ways. If you take this and you take the parking, anybody that wishes to look at this, barely fits, and you do throw balls either, to some foul lines close to both the railroad tracks and out to Route 33 or Portsmouth, Greenland Road. This design, again, is one of the first that I had seen and was surprised how close that squeezing the amount of area into that. Along with the stump dump, ironically, those who say that this is a prime location to use, is a dump. And much research will have to be done to make sure that there has not been any undesirable material dumped in that by city yard use, including diesel fuel, including asbestos, including road waste. All that will have to be researched, just as if we were to be up on Sagamore Hill at the landfill area there. That will have to be done because it is so a designated dumping area, and no one knows currently what's dumped in there. In fact, there's less known to be what's dumped in that area than there is in the landfill area up on Jones Avenue, because Jones Avenue is a documented area of dumping, whereas yard waste and other type of materials have been constantly dumped on the stump dump, unknowing what is in that. Safety at the stump dump, I know that I was told, or others on the board say that it is not our concern as a school board of the safety of when a female softball team may go up there, that's a non-issue at this point. That's something else we have to, that really is not our concern at this point. I disagree with that strongly. It is our issue at this time. All safety, as I stated, our obligations is first safety for our students. And the railroad tracks area has in the past has had rapes and beatings and undesirables walking on those tracks. And I don't think that's a good area to have students that at times may be unsupervised. The decision we're making on the fields and so forth, every one of us has said, we want to make sure that this is a 30 to 50 year plan. I don't believe you're going to go 5 years before you realize that the disservice that we're doing to the students. Obligation number 2, children's needs. Another one, and I'll stick with fields before I go to the buildings. And again, when JCJ gave it to us, I said, geez, it's a little bit bigger than I thought. But if you take the area needed just for the soccer field, not for the sidelines, not for the end zones and the runoff areas, you will be going, depending, into somebody's living room almost all the way onto Richards Avenue. And again, the only part, and again, anybody wishing to see this, this goes and takes over a majority, and this is just the field, this is not the runoff area. So what we're saying to our children during this process, that they are not worth us making sure that they are able for the next 30 years to have practice and time given to them on a proper sized soccer field. And as much as I know that Rust and everybody will try to do their best planning soccer games around a field, maybe at the high school, and I don't know if that, and I don't know if Steve has had any feedback yet, whether the all-purpose field will pass the muster of a waiver program coming back from the state. I have my doubts when we are talking about state budget cuts and so forth, whether or not that will be a possibility. We lose that waiver alone, not only will we be negative fields, we will have absolutely nowhere for these children to develop both physically and mentally properly out there in the play fields. Classrooms, it's evident. We keep saying it. Guess what? We're not increasing with one single classroom with this whole project. We're going to spend $40 million or more, and you're not gaining one classroom. Now, I'm a businessman, and that's a very poor business decision that we're not going to get. And you're not going to have anywhere to put another classroom other than those group use breakout areas, which I have seen at two different schools in a different design, a third one semi, but outstanding areas where those breakout areas can temporarily be used. Let's not get ourselves into a situation like Little Harbor where we had open design and 15 years later we decided let's cut these rooms and put them back in and put walls in and have an air problem. And that's what we have. We have a disaster of air problems and proper airflow down at Little Harbor because of conceptual design 35 years ago. No auditorium. The kids are not worth an auditorium. Oh, we could go to the music hall. No agreement that I know of exists to have us going to the music hall. And if you were walking yesterday with a bunch of students in the cold, I guarantee you it would have been a very fast walk and accidents may happen. I can't believe we're cutting out an auditorium. I can't believe we're cutting out a field that back in 1973 everybody knows of the disaster that was a decision, and again it was due to needs and the overflow of peas. We all make decisions and sometimes have regrets that they tore down one of the most beautiful auditoriums in New England, not in the seacoast, but in New England. A work-study project or a work WPA project that was done way back when was destroyed. And now we're saying it's okay to take the field that's there too. Time in the building. Everybody says, and believe me, as the longest sitting member on the board here tonight, who appointed both Mitch, Sherry, and Ann Walker on the very second group to sit with the Blue Ribbon Committee of the mayor at that time to research this and make sure that we came back, who they did not come back with a decision on either site. They came back and said both sites were viable and that both sites had positives and negatives. So why am I saying that we have no worry about the time? Because I took the timeline and I've taken it 5 different times and looked at what JCJ has proposed, along with the last discussion we had 2 weeks ago, and this Pierce Trust property issue seems to be dragging on relentlessly, that I truly believe that if we were to move forward with a new site, whatever that site is, whether it be at the high school, which is a preferred site of mine, that you would actually be in that building by fall of 2010 versus late fall of 2011 going with the Pierce property. And by the way, you displaced no students in doing this, bringing your costs down and not hurting your educational time. Formal studies, as it was brought up tonight. We have no formal studies. Both the studies, actually, if you take the exact same study that Team Design did back in '07 when they finally concluded, and you take the study of Parrott Ave right now, and you were to take the current middle school program, building program, and place that as in the said Fields area at the high school, they both will have a cost to them and are at the exact same timeline that we are at now. There is no difference. All you have to do is move the building design that you currently have for Parrott Ave, maybe design it a little bit differently, but you take that and you have a very close comparison. Site work has to be done. Guess what? We're doing some site work right now down at the middle school on Parrott Ave, and you can only do it at low tide. It's costing us $1,400 a day to do digging down there. And every time the tide comes in, the pumps have to go to empty out the water. And yes, we may find that anything can be done, but at $1,400 a day and we're pumping water out, I think we're making a very poor decision to continually keep a building there of educational needs. As I've said, Pierce property is one that greatly concerns me, and I hear people continually talk about open space. I'm one that highly loves my open space. I have places that I go and I enjoy it with my family. I enjoy it by myself at times. Know the woods well up on Sagamore Hill. Know Pierce property very well. But it's a last, and if you look at any photo such as the one I have here tonight, any space larger than that is unfortunately, or fortunately I should say, is the Pierce Island, is the only other piece larger that's green space in the immediately downtown area, and we're willing to sacrifice that. It was said tonight that you were trying to fit a size 10 into a size 9 foot. I believe you're trying to fit a size 6. Because again, we are not meeting the needs of 6 areas of concern. I also want to say I take great issue with city council members and individuals that have said that the Portsmouth High School is an eyesore. That was a very well-designed school. It's not perfect, but if you compare it to many other schools that have been done recently, it is very similar. And the architects at that time, along with the engineers, went throughout the city of Portsmouth and took every type of material that was used on the outside of buildings, including clapboards, brick, masonry, and granite, and designed it within that. As Nancy Clayburgh said, it was a heart-wrenching decision when we decided we could not afford a pitched roof. And I tell you, it was one of the hardest decisions. Lastly, we will not know the cost. But I am sure at this point, when we started at around, and I'm just going to start, one of the numbers we started at was around $56 million, and we're down to $41 million, that when the guaranteed maximum price, if the building committee does not stand its ground, will drastically go up higher. Seen it, been there, and worked it back on the high school project. We worked hard on that high school. It's not perfect. Those that have issues with it should address that with the building people in the superintendent's office. It is a good school. And I am damn proud my name is up there with every member that worked for years on a project. It took a total of 10 years to actually get that done. And I am very proud of that, and I take great issue with that. I appreciate my board's time on this. I hope that they will give it consideration. When you see a train wreck about to happen, and I know this is a 30-year train wreck, because once we do this, we're going to all stand back and say we've done our job, we've given the students a learning facility, but we haven't given them everything they need. And then when I am accused of having my blind side on this, let me tell you, I was the one, the only one, who brought forth at the time and allowed it after great discussions with both Jim Nukas and John Tabor, along with Dr. Lister, to allow study circles to happen, because I wanted to make sure all things were put on the table. And I was damn proud of that. There are 3 decisions as I move into my last year on the school board that I am proud of. The 3 decisions are, first of all, choosing the superintendents that have been here, and I do use that plurally because we have 1 more to go. Second is the high school project. And lastly, I stated my last election that I would do anything to make sure we build a middle school, because I will state on this that I wanted the middle school done first. But again, we allowed politics to override to get the high school done first. And that may be a fault, but we got the high school done, and I will stand behind making sure that the children and the taxpayers get what are deserved in the city of Portsmouth. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Rebecca?
I feel like I'm on pointer count here. After a long and winding road, most of this board has found what I believe to be the best possible balance between the educational needs of our students and being mindful of the taxpayers. And this has been difficult for me to make peace with. A year ago, I believed that we needed no more than what the state says we need. And many will remember that for a building to meet the state's standards, the size would only have to be 101,000 square feet. However, the state also says that middle schools do not need to offer many of the important classes that we do. In its wisdom, Portsmouth supports and continues to support a superb band and choral program, technology education, the creativity of the visual arts, and perhaps most importantly, in our ever-shrinking world, international language. So our school must be larger than the state maximum to provide adequate room to continue the level of courses that we offer. It could be larger, and in fact it was larger at one point. However, we recognize that land and money are at a premium. So we have looked into flexible spaces and multi-purpose areas, such as the cafeteria that can become an auditorium, sharing team areas and conference rooms. We have compressed to a size that we feel still allows room to give our programs the space that they deserve, the space that they are currently shoehorned into. And at the same time, it allows room for future growth. Our architects, JCJ and Lisa DiStefano, have given us breakdowns and explanations of what they've expected the costs to be. And to me, it all makes sense. I'm sure while most of us can agree it's still a large amount of money, when it comes to the future of our students and the type of education that they deserve, in the long run, it will end up being money well spent. Because not only can we create a facility that inspires those within its walls, outside, we can create a building that ensures the historic integrity of the Parrott Avenue streetscape, and we can also honor the master plan, we can preserve the open space on Sagamore Creek, and we can show our children that we can work together. This is the ultimate recycling program. It is for all these reasons that I support this motion to ensure the best possible education for our children now and well into the future.
Thank you.
I have a question. When you read the motion, Rebecca, you said no more than the square footage and no more than the 40 million. 40.8 million.
Right.
Can you talk about that maybe?
Yeah, it was a discussion that I had with the chair, and that is the size the cost that the architects have come to, and in that cost, they've included unexpecteds so that we don't have to compromise, hopefully.
That's it? Okay. Anyone else? Well, I'm going to vote in support of this motion, but rather than giving my own speech, what I'd like to do is, one of our members who can't be here and can't vote tonight actually wrote me a letter, and I would like to read it because I agree with everything that's in here. This is from School Board member Dexter Legg. He says, regrettably, I'm unable to attend tonight's school board meeting, but I ask you to read this letter into the public record. I am in favor of renovating and building a 129,765 square foot middle school at Parrott Avenue for $40.8 million, and here's why. First, there is little debate that the existing middle school must be replaced. This 77-year-old school outlived its useful life long ago. Fortunately, most in the Portsmouth community recognize the need to provide a facility that meets the current and future needs of our children. We're not alone. Last weekend, President-elect Obama, talking about his proposed economic stimulus plan, said, quote, "To help our children compete in the 21st century, we need to send them to 21st century schools." The current middle school building falls far short in helping prepare our children for success in the 21st century. It must be replaced. Second, the proposed plan is the appropriate size and design for our middle school program and for Portsmouth. The size is consistent with every other middle school built in New Hampshire during the past 5 years. It provides the same number of classrooms as the existing building, but makes them consistent with established state guidelines. It is consistent with our middle school program. It will allow us to continue to offer a broad curriculum, but in a much safer, greener, more effective learning environment. And renovating on Parrott Avenue is consistent with the Portsmouth Master Plan and our city's long history of preserving and enhancing our downtown buildings. The proposed plan is the right size in the right location. Third, the proposed cost is appropriate. I recognize the impact this project will have on Portsmouth residents, and I don't take lightly the prospect of higher property taxes. Yet I appreciate the recognition by many that a new middle school is an investment in our children and our future together. We all wish the cost was lower, but there is little credible evidence that a school that meets the needs of our middle school program can be built for significantly less money. JCJ Architecture estimated that costs to build on a different site would be comparable. Team Design, an architectural firm retained by the school board in 2006, provided similar construction estimates when adjusted for inflation for buildings on Parrott Avenue and Jones Avenue. $40 million is a great deal of money, but I'm satisfied that JCJ and Lisa DiStefano architects have properly estimated the real costs. Merely wishing it was less or picking an arbitrary lower number won't build the school that Portsmouth needs. Finally, the time is right for this project. Some have suggested delaying it, presumably until the economy strengthens and Portsmouth can afford it. I argue there's no better time to build for several reasons. Construction costs are flat or declining. Commodity prices have plummeted, meaning costs of construction materials should be level or falling. We could receive funding in addition to state aid from the federal government as the feds launch a stimulus package worth hundreds of billions of dollars in infrastructure spending. Money likely will be spent on schools, and our project is ready to go. And the full impact on the property tax rate won't happen with this project until fiscal year 2013. On the other hand, in a few years, we can expect inflation to increase dramatically as the recession ends, as the economy absorbs historic deficits, and as federally funded infrastructure projects compete for resources and materials. It's speculation how much a new middle school would cost then, but it likely will be significantly more. Clearly, this is the right time. In sum, the Parrott Avenue proposal is the right site and the right design for Portsmouth and our middle school program, and now is the right time to build a new middle school. It is not Portsmouth's birthright to be a great place to live. We have earned it in how our residents live every day and in the decisions we make now and for the future. Portsmouth is judged by many things, and a quality school system is an imperative. Good schools require highly qualified teachers and staff. Fortunately, Portsmouth is blessed with many of both. But good schools also require supporting infrastructure, including appropriate buildings. We need to build a 21st century middle school to ensure our children and our grandchildren receive a 21st century education. We need to build it now. I strongly support this plan, and I urge the City Council to fully fund the $40.8 million project. Sincerely, Dexter Legg. So, anyone else? Sure, of course.
I think we're all making hard decisions, which I think since I've been on the board, I think that's all I've done is make hard decisions, and it just seems that way to me. And nothing is perfect, and it never will be. And if you had hindsight for some of the things you could change or couldn't change, that would be phenomenal. But the school is needed now. You know, the master plan of reusing the buildings, I agree with 99.9% of Dexter's letter. I agree with the site, and I agree with the size. I definitely have an issue with the cost. I believe it's too high. I wish we had honestly done option B all along. I'm really sad and sorry that it actually kind of came up late for me in the process. I wish we had been doing 2 parallel avenues all along. And that's a mistake on our part, I think, me. But if they did this in a depression when they built this building in 1931 or 1932, then I just really think we need to go forward. And even though economic times are tough, we need to build this school now. So those are my thoughts. Thank you.
You're welcome. Lisa.
Yeah, I think to begin with, there is no denying that this has been and continues to be a very emotional issue that has, you know, sometimes divided our community, and this is a very difficult decision. I will be voting to support the proposal as we have it prepared. The site was determined by the community, you know, in a perfect or imperfect way before I got on the board. And we haven't worked on another option because, as I understand it, we weren't funded to look at another option, and this was the decision that was made. So the site was determined by the community, and as Sherry said, no site is perfect. They all have pluses and minuses. So this one has some pluses and it has some minuses. The size, I absolutely support. I think that we have the most efficient building that we can have to safely and adequately meet the students' needs. The genesis of this whole discussion is to provide a facility for our middle school that is safe and provides the space that they need to learn. A couple of the spaces that I think have been brought up as perhaps not being essential are the team breakout spaces and the teacher collaboration space. I think those are absolutely essential to delivering education and preparing our kids for the 21st century. The delivery of education has become much more interactive and more collaborative than a lot of us experienced when we were in school. That team space is flexible space where the kids can work independently, they can work collaboratively, they can give presentations, they can give and receive feedback from their peers. It's space for community building. You know, it's critical to the way that we deliver our education. And this space will be very well utilized. The teacher collaboration space is basically shared office space for all teachers at a grade level. It's 450 square feet per grade level. That's space where the teachers can meet as a team and they can share their materials. And again, this will be well utilized for the lifetime of the building. I have no doubt about that. And then the cost. If I were convinced that it would cost less somewhere else or anywhere else, I would absolutely do that. but I don't believe that it can be done for less. And I do believe, based on all the information that I have now, that anything else we did would, in the end, cost at least the same and possibly more. What we know now is that the state has set a construction cost at $180 per square foot. We are renovating something, I think it's like 35% of the building at $140 per square foot. So if we were to build new, it would be $180 per square foot, according to the state. And different people will tell you different things, but if that's the number that the state uses, I think that's a good number to use. So if we were to build all 129,765 square feet at $180 per square foot, per the state recommendation, it would cost more. And then the site work, you know, granted, we do have some issues to work out with this. The site work for Parrot Ave, we already have the roads, we have the gas lines, or the, you know, I mean, we have all of that done, so it will be less, and it's a smaller site also. Any other proposal would need to be vetted, and that would take our time and money. I know, you know, this whole year we've spent working on this option. Any option would need that as well. And all other options also have drawbacks that will be also emotional and also take time. And as we explore those other options, we'll continue to spend money on the current building, which is not energy efficient. The maintenance piece is scary, just because the systems are so old that, you know, you wonder, will the boiler make it another year? How much are we going to have to put in to fix the slate roof again? And all of that money is gone. I mean, that's just spending money defensively, not offensively. We're not moving ourselves forward as we wait. So I will support this. I wish it didn't cost that much, but I do believe that whatever we do is going to cost that much. It's a huge investment. I would urge the City Council to fully fund the proposal and continue to work with us to keep this moving. I'm very concerned that waiting for the eminent domain vote, or the eminent domain to be resolved before bonding, I'm very concerned that that will affect our timeline, and that will affect sort of the midpoint of construction, which affects the costs. I worry about cutting too much more from this, because we have cut and cut and cut on this, and we have been creative. And I feel that we're at the bottom of where we can be. What the school wants is an appropriate space to deliver its program. What the community wants is to reuse that existing building in downtown Portsmouth. And to do both of those things adequately, we need the full support of the council, and we need what we have determined is the amount of money in order to do this. I'm hoping that we can work with the city to find some ways to maybe, you know, continue to maintain the momentum and move this forward. I'm afraid that if we were to cut any more in terms of size or money, if we cut any more in terms of size, we might have to cut the program, and that would not be okay. If we have to cut more money, I'm afraid what we have is a big, expensive compromise that doesn't meet the needs of the students and won't meet the needs of the community. So I would urge the City Council to fully fund this and to help us move this forward. We're doing our part to get it in, but we can't wait and then find out in April or May that they're not going to fund us adequately. And that's my biggest question, I think, and I don't know how to get the answer to that. You know, I don't know how, I mean, I know that I support this proposal, but I don't know, you know, what happens if the eminent domain comes in too high and then they don't fund it, you know, because we need this to happen. So that's my biggest concern right now on the table, and if anybody has any answers for that, I would love to hear those. And then I would also ask the community that whatever we decide, we really need to come together in the end and support this school as it moves forward. And so however it ends up and whatever side you were on, we're still going to need your help and support. All of you who show up, you know, meeting after meeting, no matter what it is that you're saying and no matter how opposed you are to other people in the audience or whatever decision we make, you're advocating for our students and for our schools and for our community, and we are still going to need that, you know, very much from you. So we need everyone to work together to make this proposal work, and I'm committed to it, and I really hope the community comes together and commits to it as well.
Thank you very much. All set?
I'm stuck on the no more. And I don't want to say that I want more money or more space, but I don't want to say that we'd never ask for either. You know, what if we need an extra closet? What if we need, you know, something else? I guess I just worry that if we say we would never ask for anything else, that
What
boxes us
we're
in.
saying is that we would be directing the architects to design a building that is 129,765 square feet large.
And you don't get your closet.
If you want a closet, that's a JBC decision, and you work it out there. But that's how big the building is. This is where we're asking it to be. This is the maximum amount of money we're asking it, that we believe it would cost. I liked Jim LaPasta's description as this being sort of the best worst-case scenario, so that there's enough money in the pot with all the contingencies built in to take care of issues that arise. And I like the fact that if the eminent domain cost comes in less, then our request exactly reflects that. If it comes in at $1 million, then the request for the bond would be $39.8 million.
And what if it comes in at $3 million?
Well, then we all have to revisit. Because the issue is the city council will vote a number that they're comfortable with. We're voting a number that we're comfortable with. If there's any daylight between those numbers, then it's the decision comes back to us before the JVC is formed. In conversation amongst ourselves and with the architects, do we believe we can still build what we feel we need to build at whatever X minus amount of money is? And if we don't feel that we can do that, we need to say that. But this is one step at a time. That'll happen when that happens. Right now, we're here to sort of move our part forward. So I've always believed that the school board and the city council, we're under different timelines. They're not running on the same timeline we are. We need to put ourselves in line in order to be eligible for state aid.
I agree with that.
Yeah. So, okay, call the question. Any more discussion before we do that? Okay. Roll call vote, please. Do we need to hear it again?
Yes, please.
Can you read it again?
I would like to make a motion that this board forward to the city council our decision to renovate and expand the Portsmouth Middle School on the site of Parrott Avenue, that being the current school property along with the adjacent deed restricted land, and with a size of no more than 129,765 square feet, and at a cost of no greater than $40,855,000. In addition, I would add that if the cost of lifting the deed restriction is less than the $2 million line item included in the budget, that the actual bond reflect that decrease.
Just a point of clarification.
Yes.
Because it was brought up earlier tonight by, I believe, one of the speakers, and actually kind of resolves into the motion that there is no current legal obligation against the city or the school department on the Pierce property. It was noted tonight by one of the speakers. That has been resolved. There is no pending. It was, and again, I believe it was $73,000 or thereabouts that was split between the city on a very small portion that resides in the school. So I just want to make sure as it is kind of within that motion, that that is not anything that's pending out there.
So noted. And you've brought that up before, yes. Okay. Dr. Lister.
Regarding,
Yes,
Well, I'm just, am I allowed to still discuss, or is that?
we haven't voted.
Okay. I understand where School Board Member Stevens is coming from on the, more than on the square footage. To me, it's the cost that is the most important piece of it as far as the limits that we're putting on with the motion. So what if you did need that closet, and then the JVC could add that, whatever square feet, and keep the costs the same? Clearly it would be within, we know what the spaces are that we need. We're not going to say, oh, we need another classroom, oh, we need another team space, oh, we need another, whatever. But some of the haircuts we've given it are based on the circulation space. And you talk about the foundations and the piles and things like that. What if you can't put one here and you have to put one here? And so the square footage might change, but the basic proposal of space would be the same, but you wouldn't be adding to the cost. Like, I'm a little bit uncomfortable with that as well. Do you, can't?
Yeah, I could, because this actually happened with the high school, is that we voted on a number of square feet along with the size, and then when they went to the underpinnings, we were greatly surprised that we couldn't do what originally was proposed. And again, it was the cost that overrode the actual square footage, because we ended up with a great deal more square footage. So, and that was even one step further. That was after bonding. We had already voted for the bond and had to redesign, have them come back in and redesign. So it's cost that's going to reflect it. I think your square footage is a nice thing to have in your motion, even though I'm not agreeing with it.
But it's the money.
It's arbitrary. It's the cost that's
So,
gonna,
okay.
because more than likely it could go the other way, that you may have to cut down
Okay. Because of the cost.
because of the cost.
Right.
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 You are, and then use the phrase bonded, you are bonded to the cost.
Right.
Rebecca?
I just want to say that I'm very comfortable with at a cost of no greater. We need to put forth an effort of good faith, that we've listened, we understand it's a difficult time. And I'm also very comfortable, I think we have a phenomenal group in JCJ and Lisa DiStefano, and I feel very comfortable that they have included the least worst, best, horrible case scenario, a contingency. So I'm really having faith that that won't be an issue.
Okay.
Call the question.
Dr. Lister?
regarding the motion, what is your pleasure, please? Leslie Stevens?
I have to go first. Yes.
Lisa Sweet?
Yes.
Rebecca Emerson?
Yes.
Kent LePage?
With the greatest respect to my board members, who I highly respect in this decision, I vote for the children in the future of Portsmouth. I vote against it, no.
Sherry Ham Garrity?
Yes.
Mitch Children?
Yes.
5-1, motion passes.
Thank you.
Move for a 5-minute recess?
Absolutely.
channel?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. So we're moving on the agenda, the cable channel for the city. In our last school board packet, there was a letter from John Gregg asking the school department, the school board, pretty much what do we want to do. So they've negotiated with Comcast, is my understanding, for eventually 3 channels. Most towns go for that. PEG, the public access channel, the educational channel, and the government channel. Right. He's asking us to think about it, and he'd like to hear from us, if possible, by mid-January. I need to have a conversation with him, but I wanted to bring this up because I think we need to talk about it and figure out if we want to do it. And if we do want to do it, we need to find out information about what it costs, what's involved. I'm most curious, for example, I know the city gets about $300,000, or at least has in the past, from cable franchise fees, so if we need to put any money into doing something like this, which is really going to be very difficult given the budget and the economy at the moment, so is that a source of money that we could use to build, to get some equipment to make this happen? So what I'd like to do is ask if people would agree that we form an ad hoc committee with the board and other members who are not board members. For example, Kathy Pierce from the middle school is a possibility, who sat on the cable commission. The gentleman who, Alan Brady, and the gentleman who worked behind that glass window back there, who could help us figure out how to move forward, and maybe even some other suggestions of people. So just putting that out there to figure out how we want to proceed. Yeah.
I know that with the filming over the last, I think we're in 6 years with the Channel 22 with Howard Mangle and Guy Hampson and so forth, I would highly recommend that they have discussion points within it. Along with, because graduation has gone on. And then you may want to get somebody out of, because we've always wanted to film play productions and so forth, but that gets into having to pay the owners of the copyrights of those at times.
Yeah, that's
so,
right.
and those individuals know that. I think Guy Hampson would be an outstanding individual, know him quite well. He does the broadcasting for it. Again, that's on the athletic side, but I think you also want to bring in the drama and the band side of that, because those are events, and then along with just pure educational programming that you may do.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe even the person who teaches TV production over at the high school could help. We actually could have students out there videotaping sports games. So, someone want to make a motion to form an ad hoc committee? Sure, absolutely.
Is there a timeline that we need to follow for any of this? Like, if we form the committee, do they need an answer by a certain time frame? Because otherwise, if we form the ad hoc committee, I'd really like it to be after the first of the year, or maybe in the spring. But if we have to do something now, I think that's something else, because
Yeah, see,
I
my
don't wanna
feeling
be on
is,
another ad hoc committee.
no, I understand. My feeling is, it always boils down to when people are asking me for something, it's like, if you need an answer right away,
Right.
it's no. But if we have a little more time to think about it, well, then we can deal with it. Because I don't believe we'd be able to come up with whatever we need to
I think
come up
that's-
with by January 15th.
Okay, so do
So-
they need an answer by January 15th?
I just need to clarify with him. I don't know. This was in our letter, in our packet
Yes,
last
and
time.
I knew you had it. That's
So,
why I was-
right. Well, it says he would appreciate a response by January. But I think that might just be in terms of, whether we want to move forward. And I'll find out more. And if it's by forming an ad hoc committee, we are moving forward.
I'll make a motion then that we form a committee to investigate the possibility of an educational channel through the Portsmouth school system, so we can notify the Cable Commission that we will look into this non-time Pacific.
Second.
Okay. I agree with that. Any other further discussion? Okay. All in favor of forming this ad hoc committee?
At some point in time.
Well, we'll form it soon, after the new year. We'll ask people. Okay? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Okay, on the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I put the item number 3 here, the New Hampshire School Boards Association call for resolutions, which is the delegate assembly on Saturday, January 17th, 2009. I'm only interested in knowing if anyone's interested in attending that, which is usually a Saturday. I know Board Member LePage has been on several occasions. Brendan Restano had been in the past. And even though we didn't submit any resolutions, you can still be a member during that day and be part of the workshops that they have during the day. And if I just want to let you know that if somebody's interested in doing that, we'd be glad to make the arrangements. We'd just like to make sure we do that in a timely fashion.
I'd just speak to that. I've attended it over 13 times, and I really think it's important that because they need a quorum. We are a member of the New Hampshire State School Boards Association. That quorum is always very close. I think that it shows both respect to our fellow board members in the state, and it also allows an educational purpose for a board member to come back and report on the processes that happen with the discussions of those resolutions. Those resolutions govern the way that we can do business as a board, and there are some major changing. Example, building aid is a major portion of this coming up this year, and it will have some radical changes one way or the other by the state legislators, so the School Boards Association has that as a high priority. So I unfortunately have all my weekends tied up lately.
If anyone is interested, they can contact Dr. Lister.
So we've got to make the arrangements.
Okay, and can you go to number 4?
Number 4 also was something I listed here, and speaking of grants, there is a grant opportunity that we have been working on for the past several months. The United Way has been involved in this in the past, and several other agencies. There's an effort in New Hampshire to put money aside to deal with the underage drinking initiative for youth, and to be able to have a youth-to-youth program in Portsmouth, much like the one in Dover, which is very popular, and the students there take a very active role in tobacco, alcohol, and drugs in the community as far as marketing reasons why people should not be involved in those activities. So I have a community coalition coordinator first stab at a job description that I'm really just sharing this with you because I want you to know that we would like to possibly enter into an arrangement to be able to be involved in this grant, which would be for a community coalition coordinator. And if I could read this for the people at home just very quickly. This is a primarily responsible to research best practices, develop and conduct and supervise the implementation of drug and alcohol prevention strategies within the Portsmouth, Greenland, Rye, Newcastle, and Newington service areas. Duties of this person will include the development, coordination, and management of adult and youth-focused efforts to reduce and prevent the use of alcohol and abuse of alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs. And as I said, this would supplement the work that we have ongoing with our underage drinking initiative, which is a real collaborative with the Portsmouth Police Department and the police departments in each one of those towns. This is money that would be geared toward hiring somebody, working with the towns and the social service agencies in our communities, and be able to deal directly with youth, provide workshops for parents, professional development for teachers, coordinate activities within the different organizations within the region. And we would like to have that person also actively participate in the Greater Portsmouth Safe Schools team and other school-based and community programs. So I'm just mentioning this because we are just beginning to talk about this, not to have another position here, but this would be a grant-funded position, and look at this working collaboratively with the police department and other agencies. So this is more informational than anything else, and this is a first stab at a job description. This is not what the person would do, but we'd like to be able to come back to you and to let you know that we're addressing this issue, which we think needs to be addressed. Rebecca.
I have a quick question. I'm assuming that they would also work in conjunction with a school resource officers that we have?
Yes, they would be part of that.
And then would the 5 towns all apply for grants to fund this position?
This is one grant to hire a person to work in each one of these communities.
Okay.
Statewide, there are other regions that are doing something very similar. I know that Rochester City is doing something very similar, and there are other regions in the state where this money is being filtered into, where people are working on these kinds of issues. But we had originally been part of a bigger region, and we made the case for wanting to do something like this in SAU 50 and SAU 52. And I have talked to George Cushing about this, and he'd like to share this information eventually. But right now, we're just beginning the conversation.
Great, thank you.
Kent?
Bob, you know, I always respect our relationships with the police department and coordinating programs. The two issues I think I have with it, and I just wrestled with Steve here to try to our minds, what's the difference of this compared to, and maybe it's geared a little bit higher to the old DARE programs that have basically dissolved and left because of its issues, and it had issues. And then also, you know, as I see an end in the next year for my staying on the board, any grants that I do along this way, I want to put a caveat that it does not come back to the general budget, that somehow, if the grant money runs out, can no longer burden this, because our OR officers were all grants, and now that money's gone, and we end up picking up that tab. Many programs, if you go back through history, were grants that began, and once the money runs out, the school system has to pick that up, and that's not fair to our current employees as we look forward to consolidate sizings of it. So again, those are the two issues I think I wrestle with. I don't think I disagree with the concept, but I need to look at it, seeing how we just got it tonight. But those would be the two I'd come back kind of strong on and say, and maybe you have answers for it both on the DARE and on the grant funding.
Well, I'd like to respond to it because we have talked about that. We're not looking to start another program. As this is a person that would provide services and do some collaboration and communication within the region, I am also not suggesting that we take advantage of this 2-year money with the caveat that we would pick it up at any other point. This is something that is maybe a one-time thing. It certainly complements the kind of activities that we're involved in with the underage drinking, and we're looking, because there is an issue, we're looking for any services that we can provide. This person would work with the agencies, as I said, but also we have a drug and alcohol counselor at the high school, and they would work with them. And so I'm not suggesting that we pick this up at any other point. And when I've written letters of support for several grants recently, I've made it real clear in the grants that, in the letters of support, that the Portsmouth School District is in no way in a position to provide any additional funding for these programs.
Thank you, Bob.
Anyone else? Okay. Moving along to committee reports. I can report on the superintendent search committee. There are other members of this ad hoc search committee that are here, so if you want to chime in as well, please do. So we received 19 applications. The screening committee went through all 19 of them and looked through the applications, looked at the leadership profile that was put together from a variety of interviews with members of the search committee, members of the city council, members of the community. We brought that 19 down to 6. 7, seven, right. But in the end, we interviewed 6. And so right now, what we're looking at in terms of a timeline, and I should say the interviews were actually just held this past weekend. And what we're looking at in terms of a timeline is early in January, sometime in the early part of the month, members of the search committee will actually do site visits for, we're down to 4 candidates at the moment out of the 6 that we interviewed. So 4 we'd like to move forward. We'll do site visits to their district. There's a small subcommittee that's put together from that group that's working on organizing and doing the logistics for candidates' day and night, right? It would be probably one day, possibly two. We'd like to really try to make it happen in one day. But it would be a day where the candidates would be taken around the district. They would meet with teachers, administrators, students, and in the evening, they would have opportunities to meet with the community. And that would happen on January 21st, 22nd are the dates that we're shooting for that. And during those candidates forum that'll happen throughout that day, people will be filling out feedback forms that will be developed. All of that information is coming back to us. And then we don't have any real specific dates, but in February, we'll take all that information, we'll read it, we'll think about it, and then we will have interviews with the candidates ourselves. Yes, Kent?
Seeing how you're down to the 4 candidates, I'm going to request that the full board have packets given to them on each one of the candidates that you are at.
Sure.
At this point, because I feel that, somewhere between 4 and 7 would be
Right.
where the full board should start to have knowledge long before the rest of the public, in case they have questions, that they can go back to the research committee to make sure that, knowing who these individuals are. And I would also then request that when the committee is ready, whether it's 4 or 2, that we have a chance to meet with them as they go forth to the public at some point.
Just 2 things, just logistically. One is, I have no problem giving you packets, but I think we'd wait until all of the candidates agree to go public with their names.
Correct.
Okay,
Yep.
which will
Yeah,
be in
they
the
would be confident- the
next
packet, that's what I'm
7 to
saying.
10 days, kind of a issue. And then the other part of what you were saying is the board, you would like to meet with them before the candidates.
Well, I would say that I think, an opportunity, even if it's a meet and greet, so that we have an understanding, and because board members are going to be questioned whether you know who this person is, and,
Meet and greet's a good idea.
Yeah, I'm not saying a formal, because by the time you get down to a final interview.
Little gathering.
Yeah.
Okay.
That the board members should have
It's a good idea.
a knowledge of these individuals.
Okay.
I've already been asked, and I'm going to be honest, I don't know one single person that you guys interview, and that's okay at this point.
Right. Okay, so that's where we are. Policy. Anything?
Vice Chair, would you like to?
Necessarily.
I was gonna say, we're both gonna pass it up.
Okay.
Officially, we still, Kathleen does our notes and our minutes. I can tell you that we did meet, the policy committee met on December 1st. We are going over the attendance policy, which has been the one we're focusing on, revising the policy and trying to get elementary, middle, and high school together on some sort of common ground behind an attendance policy. But as far as procedures, we're actually kind of thinking of having the elementary, middle, and high school principals work up even some procedures to bring before the board so that they have some consistency also, because there's a hard understanding to grasp sometime between the policy and the procedure. So it is being worked on. And otherwise, that's the one we're concentrating on, and our next meeting is January 13th at this time. Either of you want to add anything? Any
Okay.
question?
Great, thank you very much. And Curriculum Council.
Sure, just briefly, at our November meeting, we continued our work on one of our 2 main objectives this year. If you remember, our primary work this year is around helping address 2 of the board goals from this year. One is the creation of some kind of 5-year curriculum revision plan, and the other is to develop some ideas around the notion of a quality educational index to look at the progress of our schools. So we're nearing the end of work around this curriculum revision plan, and the council had some discussion and development of a draft at our November meeting. We would hope to, at our next meeting, which is next Thursday, sort of finalize that draft and prepare to bring it to you sometime soon and move that work forward and move on to our next goal.
Questions? I have one, if no one does. So would you, sometime in the future, in the new year, come back and talk to us a little more about how the council's moving on common assessments and where that's at?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, the development of common assessments is part of the revision plan.
Okay, thank you. Seeing nothing else, anything under other? Next meeting, January 6th, here, City Council Chambers. Abby Rockefeller will talk about some survey results, but that's still tentative?
Yes.
Okay. And we will be voting at that point to fill the school board seat. If you have any suggestions for the agenda for that meeting, please send it to Dr. Lister. If I see nothing else, motion to
Mr. Chairman, just two quick items. We just want to remind everyone, the Holiday Express on Saturday at the North Pole. We have tickets still available at the elementary schools and the community campus. Tickets $6. If you have need any information, please give us a call. Any money we might make from that will go into scholarship and toward purchasing materials for the for the literacy initiative. We're really looking forward to a very successful day. So this is a good chance to get your tickets, and we hope people will participate. It's going to be a fun time. And also, I would like to wish the board, I know we have a meeting coming up, and I would like to wish the board a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year and Happy Holidays, and appreciate all your support, and look forward to working with you in the new year.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Same to you.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.